So, ladies and gentlemen, we have the man by the name of Ryan Clark. And I haven't seen this before. I don't know how old this is, but looks pretty recent. But because he mentions LeBron James talking about ring culture, and that hasn't happened too long ago. So Ryan Clark goes after LeBron James and mercilessly, completely dismantles his whole argument about the ring culture, about rings not being the most important thing in judging a player and his career, and just calls him a hypocrite straight out. By the end of his comments, he literally says LeBron James is a hypocrite, that there is hypocrisy coming from LeBron James. So let me play these comments for you, and I'll be right back to kind of break it down and share my own opinions on them. Take a listen.
LeBron James doesn't have a problem with ring culture. He has a problem with more rings culture, because LeBron has curated his career around ring culture. Because if he didn't, LeBron James never goes to South Beach. He went to South Beach because he understood that as individually dominant as he was nothing without those rings. And what's funny also too about LeBron is the fact that he's talking about the accumulation of something when that's the exact argument that all of his fans, all of the people that say he is the greatest, use. His accumulation of points over a certain amount of time, accumulation of assists, accumulation of rebounds. The reason he's pointing out the more rings culture is because he hasn't accumulated more rings than the person that he's chasing. And so if I can get out and debunk the fact that it's about how many rings you get as long as you have one, or if I can get out and debunk the fact that we're not having a conversation about how much you elevated your team in the most important moment, just about how good you were, right? Because when you bring up Barry Bonds, it's like, let's not think about whether or not he won a championship. Let's say he was the greatest ever, which all baseball players agree to, right? Like he brought up Dan Marino. Yeah, we know Dan Marino could spin it, but Dan Marino never lifted his team to a championship, so we speak about him differently than we talk about Tom Brady. And let's not forget that part of greatness is showing up in the most important moments. The most important moments are playoffs and championships. And that is the reason that you get to be, whether it's in the top 5 or a top 3 or a top 2, or you get to be the GOAT, is because in the most important moment, as individually great as you were that great or better when it counted most. And so LeBron James is extremely intelligent. He knows that if now he comes out and says, hey, it's not about how many rings you accumulate, it's about how you played individually. Now, all of his fans, his people that say he's the GOAT can point to those numbers as long as you don't point to the amount of rings that somebody won, because that's the conversation or argument that he can't win. And I think for him, right, it's hypocritical, because you shaped your career early on around winning championships because you knew championships could make you the GOAT. You even said, when I came back 3-1 against the Warriors, that made me the GOAT because I won that championship. Now, all of a sudden, because maybe there's a fear you won't win another one, championships or amount of championships don't matter.
So here you go, my friends. Very interesting comments from Ryan Clark. And that's why LeBron James has a problem with the ring culture, because he just has less rings than everybody else. He has less rings than Mike. He has less rings than Kobe. He just can't measure up to those guys if you talk about NBA championships. Now, he started in the beginning of his career, like Ryan said, he centered his career on chasing rings. If he didn't want to chase rings and he didn't think they were important, like he says now, because he can't catch the two guys that I mentioned, if he didn't think they were important, why go to Miami? He could have gotten all these stats in Cleveland, probably even more. because a lot more would have depended on him without having superstars there for a while. You know what I'm saying? So that's a that argument just doesn't make any sense. Now, he points out that rings don't matter because, again, he has less rings than the two guys that I mentioned. And LeBron does that on purpose, knowing that his fans that blindly listen to him will go with that argument automatically just because LeBron threw out that narrative there, and that's pretty much it. Now, LeBron fans' arguments, and they often ask this question, prove that Michael Jordan is the NBA GOAT without, they always have to add that little snippet, without mentioning his 6 championships and his flawless NBA Finals record, and that he was the main guy on the team every single title that he won. So in my opinion, and I've stated that multiple times, that if you have to ask that question for me to prove to you that Michael Jordan is the NBA GOAT, the greatest player in history, and you automatically have to give me boundaries within which I have to stay in, you already lost the argument, because you're trying to automatically create a scenario in which you're not going to allow me to do that, to prove that he's the greatest. So if you're trying to set goalposts and move things around for me to not be able to go in one direction or another direction, you already lost the argument, because you have to control the argument. The argument should be wide open. You mention everything. And the most important thing, by Jordan's standards, by Kobe's standards, by pretty much every real NBA superstar standards, is you're playing for championships. You're not playing for total points. You're not playing for total assists. You're playing to win NBA titles. And when I mention NBA titles, the worst thing out of LeBron's career, one of the worst things out of LeBron's career, is that pops right into my brain, just seeing it right in front of my face, is when, you know, you have Kobe Bryant saying that the only thing we hang are championship banners, NBA titles. And then LeBron James celebrates a banner with a banner and the Lakers for a mid-season championship with champagne and goggles. That was, I mean, how much lower on standards can you go? How much lower can you go? And last thing he mentions, which I agree with 100%, is if the rings don't matter, why did the ring against the Golden State Warriors make you the GOAT in your mind? Why? Because that win, that ring, that championship, you said made you the greatest. If the ring doesn't matter and the championship doesn't matter, why does that make you the greatest? You know, he is a hypocrite. I've been saying it for years. Ryan Clark is right spot on, and he calls him out exactly for what he's doing. He's trying to put his narratives out there because he's saying he's intelligent. And yes, he's intelligent in manipulating people like that. And I'm sorry to say, but simple people won't understand the manipulation, that they're being manipulated because they're given a narrative. They don't question it. They don't look around it like doesn't even make sense. They just run with it. Like people today run with headlines, run with snippets of quotes, not trying to be smart enough to go and find out the whole quote of somebody, what they actually said, and not just one sentence out of it, because it's missing the whole context. So it's crazy, but interesting at the same time. So let me know what you're thinking. Comment section is open. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.